So with regards to going through the client's account setup, we want to review their current loan structure and just work out exactly where they sit, what bank they're with, how much they pay, how much they owe, and obviously how long they've got to go on their current term. Part of this process is actually making sure that the client is disturbed and made to feel uncomfortable about their current position. No one will ever change what they're currently doing unless two things occur. One, they feel uncomfortable enough to be motivated to change, and secondly, they understand exactly what they're changing into. So first things first, we're going to use the first appointment template. This has been developed to give you a set process. If you follow this template, you will result in the loan application being signed. So we're going to run through this on a step-by-step basis. The first step is the name of the bank. Now they may be with Commonwealth, Westpac, ANZ, whoever it may be. If you can write the name of the bank just across that top left line there. And then the next portion is the monthly repayments. How much they pay each month for their mortgage? Is it $300 a week? Is it $720 a fortnight? Whatever that figure is, convert that into a monthly figure so that you're always working off monthly numbers. So if it is $300 per week, 300 times 52 weeks in a year divided by 12 months, and that's going to give you their monthly repayment. The next section just to the right of the page there is the amount owing. How much does a client owe on their mortgage? Is it $280,000? Is it $480,000? Whatever that figure is, just write that on top of the amount owing, and from there that's going to give you a really good indication as to where they're at with their current loan, how much they owe, how much they pay, and who they're with. The next portion is in the top right corner. That's the term of the loan. Did the client take the loan out over 25 years or 30 years? Asking the client this question, a lot of the time they don't actually know, but it will be either the 20 or the 25 years or 30 years. Once you've ascertained that, you then want to find out how long ago they took this loan out. If, for example, they're on a 30-year loan and they took the loan out 3 years ago, time to go would be 27 years. So fill that space in there. Term of loan, 30 years, time to go, 27 years. The next column is in the repayment section. So this is the second line of the first appointment template. And as you can see where that dollar sign is above the word repayment, we want to put in that repayment, that monthly payment that you had in the middle section of that top line, and let's call it $1,500 for example. So the repayment of $1,500 times 12 months in the year times 27 years equals the total repayments remaining. That's going to give you the total amount of repayments that the client has to pay back to the ANZ as of today. From there, it's quite a scary figure. I usually make a fairly big point about this, telling the client, well, you only borrowed $300,000, yet today you've got $620,000 left to pay on a mortgage. And then from there, you are able to ascertain exactly how much interest is left in the deal for the bank. How you get this figure is you get the total repayments remaining minus the amount owing, and the difference is the interest. And that's going to give the client a pretty uncomfortable feeling as to that's how much bank profit they've got left to pay back to the ANZ as of today. As you'll see down the bottom of the page is a graph. What this graph is, you may have seen this before, is it's how banks structure 30-year or 25-year principal interest loans. So at the top left axis there where the dollar sign is, if you can just put the amount owing, and at the bottom right hand corner, if you can just put term of loan in years on that space there, so you'd probably put 30 years if it was a 30-year loan. Now as you can see, the dotted line there is how the balance of the loan reduces over the 30-year period. The most important point there is that black dot. Why is that the most important point? That's a 15-year mark. That's when the bank has got the majority of their bank profit or interest up front. It takes the bank 15 years to get all their profit. As soon as they've got all their profit, all of a sudden your loan starts to come down very quickly from that black dot onwards. Now, this is the most important fact. The banks are so clever. They've done their numbers. They know the average Australian refinances every 3.9 years. And what that means, if you just draw a little notch on about 3.9 year mark, which is probably just above the I on the word interest, on that dotted line, so you've got a notch just above the I on the dotted line there, that's the 3.9 year mark. As I said, the banks have got all their profit built into the front end of this loan, and they know the average Australian is going to refinance that 3.9 year mark. And what that basically means is the client's going to walk into the ANZ, they're going to say, guys, can we get rid of this car loan, this credit card, can we consolidate it all under the one roof? The ANZ is going to say, hey, not a problem at all, come in spinner, they reset the loan to the start of another 30-year term. Okay, so the client's back to square one, back to where that dollar sign is. So nothing's actually changed. The client is purely and simply just at the start of another 30-year term. They feel that the weight's been taken off their shoulders, but the banks are having a quiet laugh at themselves, thinking these guys have gone from having 27 or 26 years on the clock back to another 30-year term. So no one really gets to that black dot, which is the 15-year mark, let alone to the 30-year mark, which is at the end of their loan. And as I said, the majority of that first half of that graph is interest, and interest is bank profit. It just said interest rolls off the bank's tongues a bit easier, so they like to call it interest. But if you can fill in the brackets there where the B is, that's bank, and where the P is, that's profit. Interest is bank profit. Our job at Crown Alliance is to make sure you've got as little as interest to pay back to the bank, so you can get out of debt a fairly bit quicker, because if you're not having to pay all the interest back to the bank, what you're going to find is you're going to have a lower repayment and a lower term, because obviously if you're only having to pay back $400,000 rather than $620,000, the repayment's going to be reduced, the term's going to be reduced, the client's going to be out of debt quicker, and we've got a win-win scenario there.